Hey everybody. So this tutorial takes two parts. The first part is going to be about 4 minutes long. That's for those persons who are not novices at Blender. And the second part goes through explaining all the different steps and what they mean. So feel free to look inside the description and you will see where the timestamps are. Alright, great. See you in the tutorial. Alright, here's the fast version of what we're doing. So select a cube, go into edit mode, then we're going to press Ctrl E. I'm going to choose to subdivide. I'm going to set those subdivisions to 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go into face selection mode. Jump straight into it. Select the first, so the first one, opposite sides are equal to 7. So 1's going to have 6, 2 is going to have opposite as 5, and 3 is going to have 1, 2, 3 as 1, 2, 3. Alright, the next thing we need to do is inset everything. So press I, the shortcut, carry that in just a smidge. Make sure individual is on, because if it's not, then your 6s are gonna have a huge problem. Afterwards, let's jump to extrude individual, and we're gonna pull those in. Alright, great. Now that that's selected, let's jump straight into our creation of the vertex groups. Using numbers. We're going to our material settings, remove that default material, create a new one, set the roughness to almost nothing, set the brightness of this white to more, and call this thing dice light. Then we are going to assign another material that's going to be based off the same dice white. So create a copy material and call this one dice, you guessed it, dice black. Assign this to be the color black and press assign, and let's check what we have so far. That's what we have so far. Now let's make it rounder or smoother. So we're going to go to our modifiers, add generate subdivision surface, increase that to about 3, probably carry this one up to 2, and then we're going to go straight into the objects. We're going to change the shade onto smooth, and boom, you have a die. Now if you want to scale down to actual size, it would probably be best to go into your transform properties and just set all these as highlight all, press 2.5, no, actually 22 mm. Right, and this is what we have. Let's also scale in those edges into that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and just scale those in. And we have our dice. Now let's render that real quick, but before we do that, let's go Ctrl Alt 0, which is going to carry this to our current selection of the camera. Let's add for ourselves plane and move this up just a smidge, just above the plane, and just check. We're pressing 1, get it up some more, and now we have a die. So you want to render? Very simple. Let's move this camera a little bit more up and hold shift. Alright, and if you want to render it, brightness for light first of all. More. Let's add into 1 light. Yeah. Let's another one that doesn't show me. Carry it forward. To actually create edges, so let's move that somewhere else. Yeah, there we go, and we're done. So hit render. Hello and welcome to our Blender tutorial. Today we'll be looking at making a die in Blender 4.5. So that's the latest release at this moment, and I hope you can follow along. We'll be going through. If you're a beginner, I would definitely recommend getting a feel of the layout, but I'll be going through some of that. But hopefully this project will help you to create something interesting. Alright, so first of all, when you start Blender, you're gonna have a default cube, right? And if you want to navigate around Blender, you can always use these navigation widgets over here on the right side, such as zooming in, panning, changing your camera from orthographic and perspective, or you can even change the view to orthographic view here. So this one's a camera view, and this one's going to be orthographic or perspective. These little navigation widgets here allows you to jump to different directions on the cube or in the viewport. So let's just click and drag that. What we want to do is get a feel of the interface very quickly. So what we're going to be doing is just jumping straight into it. So right now we're in object mode. So if I select my cube and I'm going to go to edit mode, the shortcut for that of course is tab. So if you press tab, and if you're seeing these little screencast keys, that's because I've installed a plugin that allows you to see what shortcuts I'm pressing. So right now we're in edit mode, and you can actually see how many vertices, how many edges, and how many faces make up our shape. Now the thing about creating a die is that the opposite sides are equal to 7. But before we even get to that, we have to increase the resolution of this cube. So what we're going to be doing is pressing A to select all, and you can press Ctrl R or Command R to start creating your loop cuts. Now this is a loop cut is one way you could actually create this, and that would actually create our loops here. And if you wanted to, you could increase the amount of cuts that you have, and we would need about 4 cuts. And you do this for all the different axes. However, you can always go in and you can choose to subdivide. Now I'm just going to hit the shortcut F3 and choose subdivide. Shortcut is Ctrl E. And for all the faces that we have, we're going to increase the amount of cuts to that much. Right, so we have 4 cuts on all sides. And now we need to make the selection of the different faces of our die. So first one, we're going to click on the first one. You're going to navigate around that. And the opposite of 1, as we said, the opposite sides are equal to 7. So hold shift, and let me just turn on wireframe view so you can see what's going on here. It might be a little bit more tricky, but hopefully you'll be able to follow. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So on one side we have 1, the other side we have 6. Now we go to the top, we're gonna keep holding shift. For 2, let go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And last but not least, we have 3. 1, 2, 3. And the opposite side of that is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're uncertain, you can always find an actual die and use that as your reference. Okay, now for the next step. We're going to have to do an inset. Now what an inset does, it pulls in the adjoining faces towards the center of the selection. So if we were to go over here, we have a shortcut that says I for inset faces, and if I just hit inset faces and use that widget, it's going to pull these in. Now we don't want to go too far in, just a very small amount. And there's something you need to note, especially about number 6. It's trying to pull the entire selection together all at once, so we're going to actually set that to individual. Right, so that's going to separate them. And the next thing we need to do now is extrude inward. Now if you were to press E for extrude, the shortcut is E, it would extrude like this. I'm going to press escape there. What we want to do is extrude individual faces. So there's an option there, so click and hold, you see extrude, sorry, undo, you're going to see extrude individual. When you pull that widget, you can either go in or out. We're not going to go too far in, just about there. And with that, we've done the first part of what we're doing. The next thing we need to do now is to just to get a feel of what it looks like, I'm going to go over to our modifiers, that's this blue wrench over here, and add generate subdivision surface. And what you get if we increase the levels on the viewport is a very rough looking die, right? Now we're not quite finished, so I'm gonna just hide that for now. And you want to make sure your selection is still there, right? Because we're gonna need those selections for what we're gonna be doing next. All right, we have to account for the fact that we're gonna be putting a material on top of this die. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna save this selection of these faces into what we call a vertex group. So if you hit over here, and what we're going to be doing is just selecting the faces there. So if I was to zoom in, and you might think, oh yes, we're going to select all the different faces for you. No, that's going to take way too much work. So what we're going to be doing instead is we can go to our mesh, right? And what we want to do for our mesh here is we want to select more. Sorry, we forgot to select. So select more or less, choose more, and if you are uncertain as to what shortcut that is, that's Control and Numpad plus. So CTRL, Numpad plus if you have a numpad. So with that, it's gonna select the additional, right? So Command minus, Command plus. Let's create a new vertex group, and we're gonna call this group numbers. And we're going to assign our current selection to numbers. Now when we assign that, if we should deselect what we have, we can actually click back on this and choose select, and it's going to have that vertex group saved. Alright, let's continue. So we have that done. The next thing we want to do is jump back to our modifiers, and we're going to turn on back this here. Now, right now you're seeing these faces, these very hard edges. So if we don't want to increase the resolution, we have to change the type of shading that we're seeing. So if we go to object, you have here shade smooth. Shade auto smooth also works as well, and it kind of just shades that for you. This does not change the geometry. We still do have, if we were to apply this, we still do have those faces that we're seeing, but with a shade smooth shading, it blends the visuals of the edges. So if you were to increase the levels, you will get a much more crispy, high quality resolution. Now if you are like me, sometimes you might think that the edges of these are too hard or too sharp. You can go into vertex selection mode. We're just going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go all the way around. 5, 6, 7, 8, all those edges. Now just make sure that your transform pivot is the median point. If you haven't done anything, it shouldn't have changed. So we can press S and scale in just ever so slightly. That's gonna curve our edges just a bit more. And so we have what looks like a die. Now, something to note about Blender is that you typically want to model things to scale. Right now, if we were to look at the measurements of this particular object and come over here, the shortcut being N, you will see that our object right here in terms of item is actually 2 meters large. That's very large. So if you were to just look for a die, I think you might get something like 4 centimeters or so. But what we're going to be doing, we're not focusing too much on the size right now. We're going to focus on actually getting the die to look like a die. So right now, what we have here is just default material, only gray. So if you were to look at the reference of a die, it's very shiny, it's very sharp. And so what we want to do is go into our material settings. We're going to remove our default material and we're going to create a new one. And our base color is going to be white. right? And let's bring up a preview of what we want to see of the surface. So that's what that looks like. And if you turn on this render ball or shader ball, that's what it would look like on a different type of object. So we have this here. We want the roughness to be less so that the object has a better look, and it increases the specularity on the object. The specularity is really that shiny edge that you see on the edge there. So that's what we have. Very, very smooth, right? Depending on the material, of course. If you have something worn out, it will be probably rougher. So we have that. We can call this material 001 dice underscore white. Now you can name it whatever you want. I'm just calling it dice underscore white because I know that this material is specifically the white color for the dice, right? Now everything else seems fine. We want to create a second material, of course, a copy material. So copy that. You're going to see dice underscore white dot 001, or whatever you've called yours. It's going to have the dot 001, and what we're going to be doing is just calling it dice underscore black. Right, so now we have two. The difference is, as much as these two dice are white and black, they're exactly the same. So we have to change the property, the base color on the white one, the black one. So let's go here and just carry this down to something dark. It doesn't have to be pure black. Now, if we were to look at what we're seeing now, and you must note that if we click on the camera icon, we're seeing what is here. Right now, as much as we've created two different materials, and we have white and black, right? We've created two materials. We need to actually now add materials to this thing here. So we have here, we have dice black, we have dice white. Now, we do have two different materials, but right now you're seeing it's adding information about the shape. So we've just seen the material itself. Let's start adding material. So we're gonna click here. You saw me just change something a while ago. It changes from data. So you're creating the data, and now we're creating the link to on the object. So one, we want to have the white on this, but we also gonna press the plus button to add a second material. So an object can have more than one material. So let's hit that button, and we're gonna choose now also dice black. Now, what we're seeing here is just the white part. Good. Next thing, let's just go into edit mode. Again, the shortcut is tab, and let's deselect anything that might have been selected from before. And the next thing is you click on the vertex groups. That's that green triangle. And remember, we had the numbers there from before. So we're going to choose to select those, and we're going to jump back to our materials tab. Now, we have the dice black selected, but we don't have it assigned. So now that we have selected what we want to assign it to, we can choose to assign this black material to that. And so what we get, if we were to go back into object mode, is our die that looks very much like this. Now, just as a little piece of resistance, what we're going to be doing is two things. One, let's create something for this thing to be resting on top of. So let's add a mesh, and we're going to choose a plane, just a floor, right? And the floor by default again is 2 meters. So we want to scale this down, and let's see, a quick Google search for the size of a dice, and they do come in different sizes, right? So you can look at a dice size, check out how much centimeters it might be in terms of the size, and you might find some to be 1.6 millimeters, some 2.5 millimeters, right? It all depends. So we're gonna do the same thing. We have the dimensions here, and I'm just gonna click and drag so I can change all 3 of them at once. So I'm gonna type in maybe we could go one for 25 mm, and it's gonna give you that. Now it almost looks like your dice just vanished. The thing is, it didn't. What we need to do now is focus on where that dice is. If you have a numpad, you are free to press numpad delete, numpad period, or numpad full stop, or numpad dot. Right? If you didn't, then what you can do is make sure that over here in the outliner, I believe it was called cube, which we can now probably double click and rename. Call it dice. Even though die is technically singular. Alright, so what do we want to do? We want to jump here. So we have options, right? We're gonna we want to make our view to where we're seeing there. So we have the option to, if I'm not mistaken, jump straight to align view, and we should see align camera to selected. So right now the camera has jumped to what we're seeing, and we can hit this, which doesn't look very good. So let's undo what we just did a while ago. So boom to dice. Let's see how we can frame selected. There we go, and it jumps straight to that. Now if you look at this, the die currently is resting somewhere in between the ground and the surface and this. So we want to move it up. So choose the transform tool, the shortcut being G. And if you want to raise it up on the Z axis, it's a simple matter of pressing G and then Z, and take your time and just lift it up. If you want to be completely certain that it's resting above your current surface, we can actually jump over to one of these views, perhaps X view, and press plus to zoom in, or if you can use your mouse wheel, that also works, and just take your time and just clear this above that shape. Great. If you press 0 again, very far away. So we want to actually make the camera position itself on the die. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna frame select it, just jump out a bit, and what we want to do is have the camera. Actually, here's a better idea. Let's do two things. We want to make it look like the die was somewhere midway in being thrown. So we can actually select this shape and hit R twice. RR is going to give you a trackball rotation, and you can do something like this. And we want a second one. So if you want to duplicate, shortcut is Shift D, move it somewhere else. This guy a bit lower, and we're going to do another rotation showing different sides of the same. Right, so we get that look and feel. All right, great. So two more things. Right now this is kind of limiting. So what we need to do next is we want to give it some nice lighting. So we're gonna add some lights. So right now by default you do have a white light inside Blender. Right now that's what's casting this shadow. But what we want to do is add probably two more lights. Two very subtle lights. A blue one, an orange one perhaps. And what we're gonna do is add or light, point light. Now something to note about where your objects show up. So if you notice, you see a little, it's a 3D cursor. It's a little cross here with it actually looks very much like this. So you can actually move your cursor. Wherever your cursor is, your 3D cursor is, that's where your newest object is going to appear. So we can actually select that. Make sure you're selecting the right thing. If it's not so easily selectable, go over to your outliner, and we're gonna just move this G. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. So we want to get the second light, the point light. G, Z, move that up. And we're gonna just move it across. Probably G, X maybe, like that. And G, Z. like that. If you want to do it from the top view, do like this, zoom out a bit, and you can also change the intensity. So right now the intensity is at 10. Let's lower that so it's not so bright. And we're going to change the color by clicking on this white area and just change it to something else. So we're going to have a warm color somewhere, and what we can do with that is we're going to duplicate it again. So remember, the shortcut for duplicating an object is Shift D. So we're going to move that one over here. And we're going to set that to a cooler color. So just bring that to something like blue. And let's jump to camera view again. So again, it's very, very, very far away. So we want to actually zoom back into our die again. And what we want to do is just get an idea of what view we want. So I want to just set up my camera like this. It looks nice from here, I would think. And so if we want to get the camera to have this particular view, the shortcut for that is Control Alt and numpad 0, and the camera will jump to that. If this isn't quite to your liking, you can select the camera, press G to move it, and just position it where you want it to go. Of course, your camera is subject to things like rotation, and you can't really scale a camera, but you can move it. Right? So take your time. If you press G and you hold Shift, it's going to move a lot smoother, and that's how you can get this thing positioned. So that's what that looks like. We could do one more thing where we add texture to the ground, but being that this is a beginner tutorial, I don't want to overwhelm you too much. So we're going to stop this particular video here, and for adventure we go to the next video where we're going to show you how to do some texture mapping or some UV mapping on the surface. Alright, thanks for watching. God bless you.